works.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us for the February edition of Congressional Forum. As you can tell, we are virtual this month, and we plan on going in person next month moving forward. So very excited about that. Again, my name is Daniel Silva, President and CEO of the KCK Chamber of Commerce. It's good to have you all join us today. I see a number of board members on the call, so welcome and thank you for participating. I do also want to take this moment to acknowledge our wonderful sponsors listed there at the bottom. These are folks that support Congressional Forum work and public policy work for the KCK Chamber of Commerce. So I'm just going to take a moment to name those folks. Thank you, KCK Community College, Union Pacific, Providence Medical Center, Amazon, KCK Public Schools, new Congressional Forum member partner, Vibrant Health, and Sporting KC. And of course, a special thank you to our top sponsors, Burns & McDonnell and BPU. Thanks again for supporting this work. I think folks will be excited about the lineup that we have in store for you all this month, and then obviously coming for the rest of the year. We are featuring today for the first time our new county administrator, Cheryl Harrison Lee, and we're excited to have her share remarks today, and we'll get to her here momentarily. I do want to switch slides here and again to give folks an idea of the lineup that we have scheduled for the rest of the year. We put a lot of work into creating what we think is a well-balanced lineup of speakers, kicking things off next month with Attorney General Schmidt, then Representative Davids, Senator Moran, who we've not had in quite some time. So we're interested in having him join us, Secretary of Labor, Amber Schultz, Senator Roger Marshall. Now, all events will be at Children's Mercy Park unless otherwise stated. So the July 15th event will be offsite due to Sporting KC being closed on that date, but we will find a location for that. Since it will be in the middle of summer, we'll do more of a picnic themed. We do have the Secretary of Transportation, Jerry Lorenz, in August, Lieutenant Governor Tolan in September. We are eyeballing a potential 3rd District debate or town hall for the October meeting. As a reminder, we will not have a November meeting due to our annual gala, which takes place that Friday night. And then we will have a holiday-themed Congressional Forum in December. So great lineup. Very excited to have folks, very excited to be back in person. And we look forward to seeing you all, next month in person. At this point, I would like to turn the program over to Mr. Bill Epperheimer, who is the president of our Congressional Forum Advisory Board, to share a few remarks. Bill?
Good morning. Good afternoon. Yeah, made somebody laugh, didn't I? Okay. Thank you, Dan. I'm not sure, we haven't rehearsed this, so I'm not sure what I'm doing right now.
Just feel free to share a few marks on Congressional Forum, Bill, how long we've been in existence, and anything else.
Thank you. 53 years we have been in existence, and we hope to be another 53. I won't be here to see it, nor will probably anyone else, but who knows. I was excited when Danny and I met to review the remainder plans for the remainder of the year. And I was surprised to see how far in advance we've come and all of our plans that we have for the remainder of the year. I know that as you look at this in the future, you'll be as excited as I am. I mean, a picnic with a congressman, heaven's sakes, who else does that? So anyway, that's it for me, Dan.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate your time. Thanks for those remarks. I do want to add that on the events that we've listed that are upcoming, all of those links are live. So if you see a particular speaker that you would like, to hear speak and be in attendance for, feel free to register now. If you want to come to all of them, obviously we have a yearly membership for Congressional Forum. So I look forward to seeing you all and getting you all registered. At this point, I'd like to turn the program over to our 2022 Board Chair, David Melhoff, who is also the Chief Communications Officer with BPU. David?
Thank you, Daniel, and good afternoon, everybody. It just looks nice to see a little sunshine over KCK. By golly, the weathermen were correct this last time, the weather forecasters. We did get our share of snow, but I think and as I told offline, Miss Harrison Lee, that I thought the KCK crews did a great job of getting the streets out and about. So that's good. So this is a nice way to kick off the weekend, hearing from our new interim county administrator. Miss Cheryl Harrison Lee was appointed to this position effective, I think, early January. And she brings a wealth of experience. I think over 35 years of professional experience as a nationally recognized public and private sector executive. And this really kind of falls in timing's great when our unified government's looking at making some generalization investments in the community. Well, you know, a lot coming down the pike. She brings a real strong data-driven accountability approach to public agencies. She's got a deep wealth of experience in strategic planning. She has managed, was the chief executive officer for the city of Gardner before, so she is familiar with municipalities as well. So she just brings some great experience. I'm looking forward, and I hope you are, to hear from her what's her vision and what's headed, and I even look forward to meeting her. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to hand the baton over to Miss Cheryl Harrison Lee, our interim county administrator for the unified government of Wyandotte County in Kansas City, Kansas. Ms. Lee, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the introduction. I want to first talk a little bit about me, and then a little bit about kind of what I'll be embarking on over the course of the next several months in this interim position. Thank you, Daniel, also for reaching out and for inviting me to participate. So about 12 years ago, I traded my fun in the sun with flip-flops for snow boots here in Kansas, and much needed after seeing this week's weather also. In Florida, had an opportunity to continue my education there at the University of Florida, where I studied urban planning with a concentration on city management. Had a very good career in Florida. I would say the highlight of that career was at the city of Orlando, where I was in charge of their development activity as well as transportation. And had an opportunity to work on some really fun projects like Universal Studios in Lake Nona, which is a multi-billion-dollar residential area that was not in the city of Orlando, but we annexed and built infrastructure and built what is now there, the UCF Medical School, about 30,000 new residents to the city of Orlando, and also home to the National Tennis Association facility. So I started in this area, a little bit more about me, started because I worked as a page while I was in college for a representative who was very engaged in community development and community outreach. And that piqued my interest to learn more about just how to engage communities, how to build long-term sustainable communities. And that led me to my educational track of urban planning and administration. In Kansas, I've had an opportunity to do what I consider to be some of the most rewarding things that probably I've had in my career. One was when the CARES funding was sent to the state of Kansas. That funding came, it was provided to the state, and there was a need to set up an office and determine how that funding would be distributed across our state. So I got the honor of being asked to come in on an interim basis and assist the governor by serving as the executive director for the Office of Recovery. In about 60 days, we had $700 million set up allocated, ready to go for 105 counties throughout the state of Kansas, including making sure that Wyandotte County got its share of funding. Developing kind of the strategic framework for that, projects, as well as a toolkit, as well as what would be eligible, what the state's priorities would be for funding. And we are still using that work now through the Spark Committee. The other opportunity that I thought was really rewarding was being able to go to Gardner right after they de-annexed the Intermodal Center. And so I arrived there, they de-annexed the Intermodal Center, and I thought, oh, wow. I've never in 3 decades seen any jurisdiction that would de-annex the largest economic engine to be in their jurisdiction in my career. But it was an opportunity to look at how do we rebuild that community? How do we provide economic development opportunity? How do we engage stakeholders? Because something like that really created quite a divide in the community. And so that was a very interesting and rewarding assignment as well. And I would say the last part of that is having the opportunity to be able to come and assist in the interim at Wyandotte County. And I believe it is important for this administration to be the catalyst of a forward-thinking vision which supports a high standard of governance and establishes a strong community with long-term sustainability. So you might ask, with all those great things, why are you motivated? What to be here? You know, what is it about Wyandotte County that's appealing? And I will tell you, I'm motivated by a couple of things. First, I've had an opportunity to witness the dreams of many residents and businesses in the community where I've served come to fruition. Secondly, by having seen what happens when confidence in leadership is restored. And then I would say third, by just seeing the smiles on the faces of residents when they have an opportunity to actively engage with leaders who keep their promises. And finally, by looking at what equitable opportunities, when given to all residents, what that looks like, what that feels like, and how that really transforms a community. So in my opening comments, when I was appointed last month, I talked about something that I'm going to talk about again today, because that is what's going to guide the work over the course of the next several months. And that is a vision to do what I call DEIF. D for discover, discovering new ways to strengthen engagement among residents, among the business community, and local governments. So it is my hope that we are moving to in-person more as we move out of some of the pandemic, so that we can become more engaged with the business community as well as with the residents and other local governments. E for evaluate. A key part of what I'll be doing is evaluating the current organization, identifying those areas for improvement, but also highlighting and capitalizing on the strengths that will benefit residents and businesses. Identifying economic development opportunities that not only create long-term sustainable development, but that will also create access, equity, and shared prosperity. And then finally, F, focusing on superior customer service as a daily practice. I believe that this vision will ensure transformation through collaboration among business owners, among residents, among visitors to our community. In this role, I think it's my duty as a responsible public servant. I've been a long-term public servant for over 3 decades, and I couldn't think of a better career that I'd be more passionate about. But I think it's my duty to continue to serve with integrity, transparency, and with a commitment to smart, sound leadership and accountability. I value the relationships that local government have with higher ed institutions, with chambers, with all stakeholders in the community. I'm passionate, many of you may know I'm really passionate about higher ed. It's been a game changer for my parents, for me, and so I'm an advocate for higher ed. To that end, I serve on the Kansas Board of Regents. I actually chair the Kansas Board of Regents, And part of the platform and the push that I've had as chair is economic prosperity, which is our pillar 3 of our strategic plan, helping Kansas families and businesses, looking at access and affordability, and making sure that we provide opportunities for all residents. And what we have learned is that many of the residents in Wyandotte County are residents that we're looking at that we have not traditionally served as an overall region system. And that is our first gen and underrepresented groups. And in addition to that, we're looking, which doesn't apply to Wyandotte, obviously, but our rural residents. And so very, very excited to see what opportunities there may be to look at my passion for higher education and economic development, coupled with my experience as a city county administrator, and how they may come together to create some opportunities for Wyandotte County that are transformative, that are new, that are cutting edge, and that are award-winning. And with that, Daniel, I'll take questions.
Thank you. And I've asked folks to drop questions in the chat. If there are not any in the chat, if you would like to ask a question now, feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you. And I've got a few to kick things off if need be, but let me open up the floor for anyone that has a question right now. Okay. This group's typically not shy, so I'll go ahead and kick us off. County Administrator Harrison Lee, I appreciate your comments on the coupling of higher ed and workforce development is what I heard you say. We do have representatives from Donnelly College, former board member Monsignor Stuart Sweatland on the call, and president of KCK Community College, Dr. Greg Mosier on the call. Well, I see your hand up now, sir. If you could speak to what you think that looks like, and then Dr. Mosier, feel free to jump in with any additional comments.
So there are some wonderful opportunities for Department of Commerce as they look at trying to bring businesses to the area, to partner with our community colleges for training, and to partner with the unified government also for not training opportunities, but opportunities for workforce development, as well as housing that might meet the needs of workforce development. Because we are a key player with economic development at the unified government, I think it's important for us to be looking at partnering with our post-secondary institutions, as well as with the state of Kansas, to see how we bring all of those components together. Having been on both sides, in Florida, I served on a board for the University of Central Florida, for Bethune-Cookman, as well as my alma mater, the University of Florida. And I value that town-gown relationship. Very, very important. And what's good for the jurisdiction is also good for the community college. It's good for the region institutions. And so I see us bringing together and collaborate in a collaborative way, because I have an opportunity to help shape policy and direction as it relates to higher ed, as well as the UG. And so this is a unique opportunity, I think, that I can really kind of help influence in a lot of different ways.
Thank you. Monsieur Sweatland or Dr. Mosier, any additional thoughts on that before we move on to the next question?
Sure, Daniel. First,
How are you, Dr. Mosier?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you. I just wanted to comment on your passion for higher ed and economic development and how they are really truly connected.
Oh, little baby.
We have a lot of great job opportunities in Wyandotte County, and as I've shared previously, unfortunately, 27% of the jobs in Wyandotte County are filled by Wyandotte County residents. So I'm really glad to hear kind of your initial passion and direction for the combination of those two. And as we bring more companies into Wyandotte County, a skilled workforce is more important now than ever, because we can have all the jobs, but if we don't have the skilled people living in Wyandotte County who have those abilities to obtain and maintain those jobs, the county will really never grow to its full potential. So I just wanted to say thank you for recognizing the combination of education, higher education training, and economic development, and how they go hand in hand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just ditto what Dr. Mosher just said from Donnelly College perspective, and look forward to working together. That's one thing I found here in Wyandotte, that the higher educational institutions here and throughout the state are more likely to see themselves working together than competing, unlike perhaps some other places. I'm not sure how it was in Florida, but I've been in different places in the country, and it's often much more people throwing elbows and being competitive. Here, we try to cooperate, and I think if we can do that with the government, local government and the state, that will be very helpful going forward. But absolutely, there's two, we know the future of jobs in Kansas will require post-secondary formation, qualifications, certificates, and degrees. So we need to be educating and forming our workforce.
Thank you, Monsignor. Moving on now to Mr. Greg Kendall, President and CEO of Wyandotte Economic Development Council. Greg.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Cheryl Harrison-Lee. Thrilled to see you today and to hear some of your comments. Kind of staying in the same workforce development line of discussion. We have had a lot of success in creating jobs in Wyandotte County. Today, there are close to 7,000 job postings in just Wyandotte County alone, with some of the highest wages in the state. In fact, we're usually about the third highest wages in the state. The challenge that we've had is finding ways to connect our citizens to those jobs. Have you been anywhere in your past roles or discussions at the regions about other ways or creative ways? I mean, we've tried some things. We've not been successful and all right. Some things we've done well, but I'm just curious if you have some other thoughts on how we can do some new stuff, new ways to connect our citizens to these jobs.
Yes, so what we've learned is 90% of the new jobs, I've learned this as a region, of the new jobs are going to require some type of post-secondary education. So the key here is going to be, we have got to get our residents trying to achieve some type of post-secondary education. We're going to have to look at the Promise Act. We're going to have to educate them. We're looking at in high schools. The leadership of the regions have been meeting with the leadership of the Board of Education, because what we're trying to look at is, how do we reach those high school students? How do we look at making sure they complete the FAFSA so that they can see that college or post-secondary education is affordable? But the key to that is going to be getting Wyandotte County residents getting some education past that high school degree. And so I think that if we're looking at that, that's typically not a role and typically not what you see in the leadership roles of a city or a county. So I think it's kind of a unique opportunity for us to look at, are there programs that we might be able to look at that really would stimulate and encourage that partnership and that education and training. We've got to create a skilled workforce here. And there are economic development opportunities. We did some of this in Orlando through some of the neighborhood groups. There are opportunities for them to look at partnering, to look at badging and certificates, and just trying to have residents take advantage of, 2-year college opportunities. Even those opportunities are going to provide better opportunities for them to take advantage of those jobs.
Thanks, Greg, for that question. Ms. Harrison-Lee, staying on the EcoDevo piece, Mayor Gardner ran on a platform of bringing back urban redevelopment, or at least putting more of a focus on that, understanding that, out west, things have gone very well. Over by where KU Med is, things are going well there as well. What are some thoughts on or projects that you all are thinking about that you plan on bringing to the urban core proper?
So I think in an interim capacity, I would be looking to set a framework for what are some of the things that the UG can look at to be able to attract development to the urban core. Those of us who are engaged in it know that it takes years to be able to really transform the urban core. But that starts with kind of a plan. That starts with kind of developing a framework. It also starts with trying to incentivize development in those areas that we want to see development take place in. So I see doing this interim capacity, being able to at least put out some recommendations for the commission to consider that will look at a path forward to revitalize the urban core. And I've done quite a bit of that in Florida as well as in Kansas.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions from the floor? I've got at least 3 more. Okay, hearing none, I'll proceed. And, along those lines of urban redevelopment, I think development of our county, if we can talk a little about infrastructure. Obviously, you're inheriting a county that has a lot of infrastructure needs, but there are also opportunities that have come with that via federal funding. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on, how you plan to shore up short-term and long-term, or at least initiate a plan to shore up, our infrastructure needs, and which are also tied to transportation needs as well. So I think bringing those two online, or at least advancing them, would be very helpful in attracting those developers that you just mentioned.
Absolutely. I often say that if no one's moving to an area for any economic development project, if they're not able to have the ability to have infrastructure in place. And so the investment in infrastructure is going to be very critical for the growth of Wyandotte County and for the continued development. And so as part of that, as we look at the budget this year, we're looking at what projects that are in our capital plan that we need to make sure that we move forward. We just presented to the commission looking at trying to get funds, federal funds, to be able to look at wastewater and stormwater improvements. When the Secretary of Transportation was here, we sent him away with a package of some priorities that we thought we should look at in terms of just streets that need to be evaluated. So while we have the ARPA funding, as well as some of the additional Sparks funding, we are looking at infrastructure and how we might be able to get additional funding infused into the UG to shore up some of the deferred maintenance challenges that we have.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any additional questions from the floor?
Daniel, if I may.
Please.
Yeah, I love your vision that you set out at the beginning to discover, evaluate, identify, and focus. So in your time so far, have you identified any major roadblocks that might stand in the way of creating this framework that you mentioned? And how can we as a community help support the unified government in overcoming some of those roadblocks?
So I have, and one of the things that I think you all can do to assist is one of the things that the first thing I started doing was kind of in this first 100 days is kind of to have a listening tour. And so I've been meeting with the assistant county administrators. I've met with department directors. In some cases, I've met with the deputy directors, and I'm starting to look also at managers. And so next month, I'm also expanding that to external stakeholders. And so I've kind of got the list of just external people that I'm looking to meet with. And so here's how you can help. When it's your turn, when I'm meeting with you, if you're on that list of stakeholders, I'd like your candor about, okay, what do you see as challenges? What do you see as opportunities? What do we need? What's our relationship like with your entity? What are some of the things we can do to improve that? Because I really would like to have an internal as well as an external evaluation of the organization. And from there, I'll start to formulate some recommendations for the commission. So some of you I know have been already contacted by my assistant for an opportunity to meet with you and talk with you about just how you view the state of affairs from your perspective. And I would just appreciate your candor as I continue to interview and evaluate.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no hands raised. Another question for you, Ms. Harrison Lee. I have the privilege of living and working downtown. I live in Strawberry Hill. In the last 5 years, we really have seen, a lot of migration towards this part of town from all over really, but specifically, I believe, from Jackson County, as, the two lights and city market become more and more expensive. And I think that's great for us from an attraction standpoint, as we're attracting younger professionals to the area, potentially new homeowners, development that may be leaning towards market rate, which I think is all good for the city. But how do we do all of that and still kind of maintain the spirit of the neighborhoods? And also the big one is without increasing any more taxes for folks, because with higher valuations will come higher taxations. And so how do we strike a good balance where, we kind of keep the spirit of a great neighborhood like Strawberry Hill and still bring in the new folks? And I know that's a tough question.
That is a very tough question. And I'll be quite honest with you, that's probably a question, that is probably a task far beyond an interim administrator's task.
Okay.
Because that is a long-term, that is a challenge, and that's been a challenge in every jurisdiction I've been in. And as you look at stimulating development, how do you make sure you don't have gentrification in those areas where you're moving people, long-term residents out or pricing them out? And so looking at balancing that new versus retaining. And so that is definitely going to be something that, as the UG continues to work with a long-term administrator, creating a balance and creating a plan that maintains the character of the neighborhood. There's a lot of character here in Wyandotte County. As I ride down some of the streets, I look at them and I think about I almost wish I could just take pictures and just start overlaying what it could look like and showing that vision. Back earlier, when I first started in planning, we did what we call visual preference surveys, which is VPS. And so what you do is you show a picture currently of what it looks like, and then you show a picture of what it could look like. And you kind of get buy-in with your governing body. Do you like this photo? And then you develop code that allows you to move to that photo. And there are some fantastic opportunities here. It's almost like a planner's dream, because great neighborhoods, good streets, great opportunities for streetscape, great opportunity to take advantage of the multicultural population and create events and festivals and businesses that will just attract a lot of people to the community. I managed a community in Florida. It is far smaller than Wyandotte County. They had a festival that had over 1 million people that would visit because they figured out how to take advantage of what they had. And we created a streetscape that gave that urban feel of what people like, that common space, gathering space in a community. Those are really important components. I tell people that parks are economic development because it's quality of life. And people like moving places where they have great parks and recreation facilities. So as much as it might be hard for a lot of people to understand, it really is an economic development tool.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That's all very exciting to hear. If I may shift focus a little bit, towards small local businesses, I think part of that character that you talked about, does refer to those small businesses, those mom and pop shops, those, special places that we all love. And as you know, during the pandemic, it was those businesses that suffered the most, or the ones that did not make it, and so I would like to hear your thoughts. And again, how the chamber can support in, providing as much support as possible for local and small businesses. And I'm glad that you mentioned codes. So I think that will be a part of the solution in terms of not applying more burden on businesses, especially small businesses who are trying to do more, but often get bogged down by bureaucracy in terms of codes and regulations and what have you.
Yeah, I think, you're right. Small business, destination businesses really create a certain flavor of character in your community that a lot of people like. It used to be we were downtown, then we moved to the malls, and now people like to kind of walk out of their apartment, go downstairs to the small business, eat, shop, and play all in the same space. And so I think there's some opportunities for that small business development that creates kind of a destination, those businesses tend to really draw not just from the community that they exist in, but actually from the area, because they become destination oriented type of restaurants or businesses. And so I think there's an opportunity to create some of that here in Wyandotte County.
We have a question here from Mr. Steve Daly. Is your goal to eventually to become the permanent administrator? If not, how long do you plan on staying on in this role?
So my agreement with the UG is that I would stay until April 1st. And I think at this point, you know, we're the commission, as well as I am, we're focusing on what they'd like done in the interim and taking it one day at a time.
And that's April 1st of this year or
Next year.
next
April
year?
1st of next year, which will allow us to get through the budget, to look at kind of a framework for some economic development opportunity, to get an evaluation done of the organization and present those items to the commission, and then they can make a decision on what they'd like to do at that point.
Great. Greg, I'll let you go ahead and ask your question.
Oh,
So I don't
thank you.
have to read it.
Well, that's okay. Well, I was just going to follow up on Daniel's comment about the local minority women-owned piece, because, you know, we do see, you know, our big development projects, you know, if they do TIF or big abatement, they're committed to spending a certain amount of local minority women-owned. And we've had a number of conversations with the unified government about really beefing that LMW up and really helping our developers understand who are our LMW in Wyandotte County. But it did come up during the pandemic that the unified government itself doesn't actually make any commitment to really spending with local minority women-owned businesses from Wyandotte County. And I'd love to see the UG do more of that to really support our local businesses, to make that connection. And I know that it isn't like there's $250 million and you can say 10% of that's going to go to LMW, but there's a big chunk of budget that probably could be spent locally. And I would love to just see if there's an opportunity to open that discussion up.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, I have experience developing local preference ordinance, and you absolutely can develop a local preference ordinance. We've done that before in Florida in previous jurisdictions. Typically, when you start to look at your MBE programs, that's followed by a disparity study. That also helps, given the diversity of this community, that would be a move in the right direction for Wyandotte County to look at. And you can also look at small local business enterprises. And so that you're basically encouraging people to support your local businesses, as well as having a local preference. And so that would be a policy decision that the commission would want to consider. But I have had experience doing both of those in my tenure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that too. I think that's fantastic. We certainly don't want our local businesses losing bids by cents or a dollar or so, you know, and we've seen that happen in the past. And we think that money that stays in Wyandotte County absolutely benefits Wyandotte.
Absolutely. So when we've done local preference ordinance, what we might do is say, okay, we'll go with the local company if it's within, you know, it's the commission would decide, but you can look at, okay, if it's within 5% or 10%, we're going to have a local preference ordinance that allows us to give it. It's not just the lowest bid. We're going to support our local businesses. And that's what we've done in previous jurisdictions.
That's fantastic to hear. And I think some of our members on this call would like that being applied to the UG as well, right? And we know that you all have to be great financial stewards of the dollars, but we certainly wouldn't want any of our local businesses losing out to a UG bid by that percentage.
Okay. So I would say my greatest challenge over the course of the next couple of months is once I've completed that kind of listening tour and getting that input, and as I've talked to commissions as well, is trying to separate for them, okay, what can we get done? You've asked me to come as an interim. What can we actually get done in this interim capacity? So let's look at what are things that are achievable, low-hanging fruit goals that can be accomplished by, say, December. And then what are those things that we need to look at that are long-term? So when I do strategic planning, I always talk about short-term, midterm, long-term, so that we can compartmentalize priorities and manage expectations. And so that's probably one of the greatest challenges that I think we're going to have during this time frame.
We're trying to take it easy on you too, so we're not being too tough. Two more questions that I have, and it was brought up during our offline conversation. First one is around Mayor Gardner's committees that he is forming around whether it's Parks and Rec, economic development, and efficiency. What are the long-term, or what are the goals? What do you see as the goals of those committees? Is it to provide input? What will happen after these committees meet and provide recommendations?
So those, a couple of things. They will look at getting input from stakeholders. They will develop ideas of things that they would like to be evaluated. They will look in their respective areas at opportunities. Should be hearing from our staff about opportunities and best practices. And then they will make recommendations. And what we will want to do as we look at strategic, and we'll also have them meeting with existing boards. So when we're looking at parks, opportunities of recreation, we're having them meet with our parks board, and then we're having them talk with our park staff. And then we should be getting with our commission after that to look at some strategic planning. The commission does like a March strategic planning effort and then kind of a goal setting effort for the budget development. And then they do one later in the fall. So it is the hope that we will get some things coming out of those committees that we can then talk to the commission about in terms of priorities and direction that they would like to see in terms of things that would be implemented. So clearly aligning them with goals and priorities of the commission.
Thank you for that. And folks, I did drop that link for those committees in the chat box. They are still taking folks, I believe, and it's open to citizens as well. So
Yes.
we have a question from Mike Taylor. The legislature is likely going to take punitive action against the UG for passing safe and welcoming. Your reactions?
Oh, gee, I try not to practice law. That's kind of not my thing. I think we're gonna have to see what happens and what that means. And, I'll be obviously consulting with our legal counsel on that to see where we need to go.
Okay, great. Last question, and I think I know the answer to this, but just share some thoughts, with the group in terms of your approach to regionalism. We are very unique as a metro area. We've got Jackson County on one side, Johnson County on the other. What is your approach to regionalism?
So I'll share my philosophy and thoughts. So what I know from looking at region, so I'm from the Carolinas. In the Carolinas, that's a big thing. We have the Research Triangle Park area, that's regional. There is a big push on regionalism where I'm from. And what I know is that regional economic development entities tend to have a greater impact because, it's more resources, obviously, and so they have a greater impact. So I am a strong proponent of partnerships, regional partnerships, and not necessarily looking at competing, and being, isolated to a particular jurisdiction. There is much more strength in kind of the regional approach and that regional partnership.
Great, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. Seeing no other questions here, I am going to call on my Public Policy Committee Chair to offer any closing remarks if you'd like to have some, Joab.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. No, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to meet with you. I know that there's a lot going on with you. I mean, this is still really new to you, so you've got a lot of meetings and things that are happening, and you're still trying to digest all the information that you're getting. I would just say that on behalf of the chamber, I know that we are looking at how we've worked really hard over the last several years to develop a strong relationship with the unified government as a chamber of commerce, looking at policies, looking at economic development, and all the things that impact our businesses. And so I would say that, we want to continue to work with you and work with unified government on that. We look forward to a continued dialogue. This is just going to be one of many. And so I want to thank you for being here today and for sharing your input. And I know you'll get a lot more questions and a lot more comments in the very near future. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Looking forward to working with you all.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison Lee. And then, like we mentioned, pre-Zoom call, we would love for you to continue to be engaged with this group specifically,
Absolutely.
Obviously with the chamber, but we find that this group is a great group to be connected to. And we meet monthly and in person starting next month. And I have posted the calendar for folks to register for events. Links are live. Thank you, everyone, today for joining. Have a great weekend. Hopefully it warms up.